Our next speaker is a senior studying computer science and philosophy at BC. Despite being an Eagle at heart, he always looks forward to coming home to the Bay Area to share his appreciation for the California sun. Raised in the Silicon Valley, he developed a love of technology and made it his goal to contribute to the software that makes the world a better place. He's an avid sports fan, a terrible cook, a mediocre fantasy football player, and he recently won a mug in intramural soccer. Please welcome our next speaker, Aniket Saoji.
How's everybody's day today? Going good? All right. Well, my name is Aniket Saoji, and this talk is clearly about IoT. So, IoT is a funny word. It's a buzzword more common than BC students in Patagonia fleece vests. But it's actually pretty cool. And my talk's basically about what IoT is and how can we use these Internet of Things lights to make cities smarter. So, raise your hands right now if you know anything about IoT. Oh boy. You guys should get out of the room because you probably know more about this stuff than I do. But let's start with the show. What's the game plan? So first I'll talk a little bit about myself. So you know who I am and where I'm coming from. And hopefully I can prove to you I'm not completely full of shit. Then I'll talk about what is IoT. I'll try to explain what it is. Then I'll talk about how we can use these with smart lights and its applications. And finally I'll close off by explaining why everybody is losing their heads over IoT. So a little bit about myself. Thank you all. I'm a senior studying computer science and philosophy. But the reason I care so much about IoT is that I recently worked at GE this summer, and I worked at a startup called Current. And Current was really cool. It's in charge of all the lights for GE lighting and all the software that's built on top of that. So if the GE lights in the library's second floor bathroom suddenly flash all around and go haywire, I'll tell you exactly who you can blame. And what's really cool about this is that there's a lot of applications for it. And so I'm trying to explain what the Internet of Things is, and hopefully it makes sense. So to do that, I kind of want to talk about what exactly the Internet's all about. What is it for? You know, and I thought about this for a little bit, and I came to the conclusion that the Internet is basically for communication. And there's different types of Internet communication. One of the most prominent ones is person-to-person communication. So let's suppose we have Kim and Kanye here, and they want to talk to each other, right? The Internet allows you to do that with their 2 solo cups. And the Internet lets you do that in multiple ways. You know, you can Skype, you can FaceTime, you can Gmail, you can email each other, you can iMessage, so on and so forth. But there's a different type of communication, and this one's a little bit more common. This is like person-to-data communication. And this is basically our daily use of the Internet. It's basically looking at your fantasy football scores right now, or reading the news at BC Heights. It's finding the answers to your homework online, or taking the Which Disney Princess Are You BuzzFeed quiz. Jasmine, by the way. And then on top of that, there's another type of communication that's more in the realm of IoT. This is called device-to-data communication. And these devices aren't random objects, though. These devices are devices that are meant to use the Internet, like your phones, your iPads, your laptops. And a lot of this communication happens when you aren't even explicitly using your device. For example, your pictures are automatically stored on the cloud when you take them. Or you know, you get a notification when David invites you to play Candy Crush on Facebook for the 1,000th time. Or it constantly happens when your phone's updating your location. And this is the type of communication that is more in the realm of IoT, but it's meant for devices that actually are supposed to use the Internet. IoT, on the other hand, is when we're using this Internet communication with objects that are completely random, like an alarm clock and a bed. And so if we can extend this automatic communication to things, anything, this can be IoT. I can basically make my bed talk to my alarm clock by basically connecting them to the Internet. Now I can make my alarm clock basically set itself every time I get into bed automatically, and I can also make it such that the alarm goes off and starts blaring, and it can only turn off when I get out of bed. And I think that's pretty cool, and that's what IoT allows us to do. So I found this quote online that basically says everything I just said a lot clearer. It's basically a proposed development of the Internet in which everyday objects have network connectivity, allowing them to send and receive data. Now, I really don't know who said that, but I think that's a good definition, right? And to go more into detail about this process, about the concept, I thought of an example to help illustrate my point. So let's suppose we've got the toothbrush, right? It's a standard Oral-B. It's pretty boring. Nobody cares about it. But boom, you tack on an IoT chip, and all of a sudden this toothbrush just became a smart toothbrush. And what this chip allows you to do is it allows you to talk to the internet. And the chip also has a pressure sensor on it, so it knows when somebody's holding on to it and when somebody's letting go of that toothbrush. And what's really cool about it is that when this chip can talk with the toothbrush, I can program it in such a way that every time you hold on to it, it'll text your mom that you brushed your teeth at a certain time. I can even program it to tell your mom how long you brush your teeth for as soon as you let go of the chip, of the toothbrush. And that's really cool. And all of this is because of that little chip right there. And this little chip is really cool because it's really, really cheap. And that's why IoT is really hot right now, is that these chips are basically, pocket money, pocket change. This one right here is half an El Perlon burrito. So what is the application of this? And this is something that I found really fascinating in my internship this summer, which is that we can actually use these in lights, specifically in San Diego City parking. And when I was at GE, we started a pilot program with the city of San Diego that allows us to put these chips in the lights of some of the street lampposts. And these chips were really cool because they had a sensor that basically monitored real-time parking spots, whether they were full or whether they were empty. So I'll give an example of something like this. Let's suppose we've got a street lamp, which has one of these IoT chips on it that basically can sense whether a parking spot is empty or full. As soon as a car parks, that chip will automatically send data to the internet. And the data looks a little something like this. And the data tells you a couple things, if you guys can see it. It tells you what, where, and when. So the what is going to be the event type. Somebody just parked in. The when is the timestamp in milliseconds, which is that really long number. That's to the millisecond. And the where is the coordinates and the location UID that tells you exactly where the GPS coordinates are for that particular spot. And this happens when a car leaves as well. So suppose a car took off, then we would get another data point that goes to the internet that says parking out. And once this data is on the internet, you can access it anywhere, on a phone, on a laptop, and an iPad, so on and so forth. So in theory, this is pretty cool, right? But me and my two friends basically built this in 2 days at the GE Intern Hackathon, and we won it. And I'm going to show it to you right now. Hopefully this works. In CS, we have something called the curse of demos. Oh, wow, it works. That's good to hear. So this website's actually really cool. What I showed in that last slide, I'm basically doing with 22 real-time parking spots in San Diego. And basically red means that it's a filled parking spot, and green means it's an empty parking spot. And the reason why it's going so fast is because I didn't want to bore you and wait for somebody to park in or park out in 20 minutes. So this data is from an hour ago, exactly 1 hour ago, and it's constantly updating. And I sped it up 20 times. And this is really cool because we can do a lot of things with it. We can do analytics, and we can find an easy way just to monitor parking spots real time. And this is going on right now in San Diego at 22 spots. So I think that's pretty awesome. All right, so Aniket, big whoop. IoT Lights help me with parking. I don't even have a car on campus. What else can they do, And I can answer that question. One thing that we can do is we can plan pedestrian sensors and pedestrian planning with it. We can put a sensor on this lamppost right here to your top left, and we can track the pedestrians who are walking right under that crosswalk. Now this way, cities can have a lot safer crosswalks, and the crosswalk times can be updated real time based on how crazy the pedestrian traffic is. Another thing that we could do, it helps you out. Another thing we can do is traffic planning. So on the sensor, on the light post that's overlooking the traffic on the road right now, we can put a sensor, and we can find out real time what are the vehicle counts, what's the average speed, what's the vehicle direction, and are there any accidents going on right now? And it's really good to do because now cities can predict traffic, and they can help optimize the best route. And these sensors can also monitor the direction of the cars, so they can monitor accidents real time. And what this allows you to do is, instead of having an accident and then having a police report, that would take a lot of time, the accident would automatically cause a trigger to that chip, which would send a report automatically to the city, and then the police would get there in a matter of minutes. And that's how cities can get a lot smarter with IoT lights. But there's a lot more. Another thing that we can do is have public safety. So on the light sensor, or on the light right there on the middle of your screen, top middle of your screen, we can put a chip, and we can have a sensor light with a camera on it that can monitor things going on in this shady street. And through image recognition, we can get alerts of any shady activity. We can have a computer that can analyze the image at this location every 5 seconds to look for certain faces, to look for certain objects, like guns or knives. Another thing that we can do is smart buildings. And so we can put this IoT chip inside the lights inside of building. And what this allows you to do is make it more energy efficient. We can put these IoT lights to track the occupancy, the temperature, and the luminance. And that way, buildings can be energy efficient. So for example, there's nobody in this conference room right now, so let's turn off the lights. Or, whoa, it's already 65 degrees. There's no need to turn the AC on in this room. Or, for example, there's already plenty of light coming from this window right now. Maybe we can dim our lights a little bit and be more energy efficient. Another example is of indoor positioning system. Now, this is probably my favorite application, but it's a little difficult to explain, so bear with me. So GPS doesn't work indoors. The way GPS works is it triangulates your position based on Wi-Fi and 4G networks and figures out where you are. And the problem is this makes sense in a 2D space, but not a 3D space. If I'm in Fulton 160 on the first floor and I need to walk to Fulton 415, GPS would tell me to turn right and one walk straight. It doesn't understand the concept of walls and floors and stairs. But smart lights can be a substitute, and they're currently being used for IPS right now, the indoor positioning system. So for example, if I'm in this room right now and my phone is on this corner, it can connect to the nearest light, and it can know my location by connecting to it. And if we map out this floor plan and we map out the other floor plans in different levels and different floors of the building, then we can find out how to guide a person from one room to another room by just simply following the lights. And now the cool applications of this is that we can use Google Maps inside a shopping mall or inside a building. And if you don't know how to get from Fulton 160 to Fulton 415, with smart lights, you can simply ask Google Maps or Apple Maps. And that's actually happening right now. So what's the big deal, right? I figured that was the best quote about all this right now. I think what's really cool about this is a couple reasons. These are the applications for IoT lights in smart cities. That's it, like 5 applications of IoT lights. But imagine the possibilities of connecting anything to everything. If I can make that camera connect to this water bottle, the possibilities could be endless. I can put a chip on this water bottle right now that can monitor how much water I drink, and it can also automatically, tell me, hey, you need to fill up your water bottle, or hey, mom, your son's drinking a lot of water, so on and so forth. And one of the biggest reasons of why this is so hot right now is hella dollars. It's estimated that there's going to be 24 billion devices that are going to connect to the internet in the next 5 years. And it's also estimated that this is going to have a market size, a market capital of $6 trillion. That's a lot of El Pelon burritos. Another reason why it's super important is because of automation. Now instead of your phone or your laptop, thinking and connecting to the internet, now dumb objects can think or act based on certain data. So I can make a smart shampoo bottle that orders another Garnier Fructis melon-smelling shampoo automatically to Amazon by just putting a sensor on it, and it automatically does it when it's empty. Or in my mod, I can have a smart door that only opens to recognized faces, Freshmen, watch out. Third reason why I think IoT is really cool right now is because of analytics. Now, in that application that I showed you that I made, Something that was really cool about it was that there was a graph that showed you real time how parking spots were looking historically. Instead of the 5 data points that graph plotted, if I plotted at least like 200, then it would look like a curve that shows you the time, or shows you all the parking spots of that location and all the cumulative parking spots of that location over the entire day of 24 hours. That means I can find out what time is the best time to park and when are parking spots going to be extremely complicated and extremely complex. I can find out what's the best time to park in Com Ave. I can find out how many people are going to be at Wegmans at 4 p.m. this Saturday. I can find out what's the best place to rush into my crush, Mila Zernich, in 2 hours. And I can think of the worst place to awkwardly run into John Miotti in the next 2 hours. You can do anything with IoT. And this brings me to my last one. I really just wanted 4 just for symmetry. I didn't know what to say. But literally, you can do anything. I think that the concept of IoT is really cool in that there are endless possibilities. And if objects can talk to each other and that data can be shared online, then there's a lot of new things that can happen and a lot of cool things that can happen. So I want to end with a final quote. I think IoT is pretty cool right now, and what's cooler than being cool? Thank you.